Totally.
Hi, and welcome to FVTV Zoom Room. Tonight, we have a special guest, Ashley Keating. Ashley, welcome. We're joined
Thanks very
by
much.
Neil Horgan, Dennis Bean, and Derek Collin as well. So, Ashley, we hear you're Cork City's #1 fan. Is this true?
I apparently, yeah. I don't know what made me that, but I'll take it anyway. I'll take any #1 I can get.
Awesome. It's good to have another perspective on the show, and especially a fan. We're actually going to play some of your music there now.
Cool.
I was trying to educate some Philistines today, Ash, is what I was doing.
And you know, like I was just listening to it there, obviously today, and it's a brilliant song. And
right answer, yeah.
When you're like, it just taught me like music has a lot to do with football as well. I mean, there's no good reason that every footballer is listening to music before they go into a game, and it's inspiring, is what I'm trying to say, I suppose. I don't know, do the rest of you feel that kind of way, or?
Yeah. Actually, how long have you been a City fan?
Since the start, really. I mean, I would have been I would have been going to kind of Celtic and Hibs games with my dad and my uncle, like years and years ago, obviously. So when there was a couple of seasons there where there was no representative from Cork. I mean, all we had was the Cove Ramblers, kind of Sligo Rovers Cup replays to keep us going for a while. And then when they started down in Flower Lodge, I would have been going. I'm not sure if I was at the first game, but I was definitely at like the second and third, and would have started going from then, And then obviously when they moved over to the Cross, so I was there from the start, I guess, from '84, I suppose.
Class.
So and obviously I was I lived in London for a while and lived in the States for a while. Actually, there was something showed up on the Facebook feed there with Derek getting the winning goal in the cup final replay against Shells all those years ago. And I actually came home. I was living in America at the time, and I came home for the match. But we had to go back. We had a gig. We were playing in Boston on the night of the final. So we were based in New York. I missed the replay, so we were driving up I-95 or whatever. So I was trying to figure out, extra time in that, and I made the lads stop the van and hopped into a service station. But everyone I rang to try to get the result off was actually up at the match. so I was like, all I was doing was talking to like fellas' mums and stuff. Like, let me have a look. It took me about six or seven phone calls to get the result, and it was like they won. In the end, they won 1-0. So I was like, did a little dance on the forecourt of the petrol station, and back into the van and up the road. Yeah.
And you know the way, like today, you'd be giving out about like Wi-Fi, or you've no 4G or phone receptions on, but you couldn't get the teletext over the States.
Totally. Yeah.
The Airtel.
How times have changed. So.
Big time.
I suppose, Ashley, what we normally ask people who come on is how they got into football and how they started playing. What was your first experience of football as a fan?
It was like I would have remembered very, very, very hazy memories of the '74 World Cup. I would have only been about 6 or 7 at the time, but like I don't remember the actual game, but I remember like the grown-ups thinking that this was very important. So I remember being sat, especially for the Dutch games. I suppose it was, you know, like having gone back and read about like that '74 Dutch team, like total football and that. So I didn't quite know what was going on, but I remember it being very important to the grown-ups. So I kind of have a fairly vivid memory then of the '78 World Cup, and in between, kind of getting into English league football and stuff like that. And it's weird, like for some reason when I was that age, I mean, it sounds strange now, but I never figured out that my dad bringing me to Cork Celtic games, or my uncle bringing me to Cork Hibs games on alternate Sundays. I never figured out that football down the cross or down the lodge was the same as football in England.
Yeah.
I just it never registered with me, so I thought it was a completely different world. And then you just start playing in the street with your pals, and then start moving on to the clubs. Like, but I mean, I was always one of these kids, like I just didn't want to get picked last. So once I got picked second last, I was happy. That was a big victory for me. You know what I mean?
And what clubs, Ash, would have been your growing up with? What clubs did you play with?
I played for Mayfield for a while, and then I had a few games with Casement. I mean, I'm talking
my old team as well, Casement.
Sitting on the bench and coming on for like 2 minutes at the end. Like,
opposition, actually.
I actually don't remember. It was just so long ago. I think I used to get told go up front, you know, just so that I wouldn't cause any mayhem. Like, and then yeah, we moved out to Bishopstown then when I was about 9 or 10, and kind of started playing with Glasheen, and I think I played a couple. Never played with the school. We were at Bishopstown Community School, and I was okay at I was in goal for the Bishopstown GAA, so ended up kind of being a goalkeeper for a few years. But then, like, fellas, you know, around me started shooting up, and you can't really have a 5'9" goalkeeper. Like, so that was it. And then kind of discovered, you know, it's like if I wanted to do anything, I should probably move into music. So I did. Like, so the kind of the organized sport stuff.
Are you saying thank God, Derry, for the music or the soccer? For
the music, Dennis. Imagine not having the Frank and Walters.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was the whole thing with sport, especially like any sport. I mean, I'd watch any sport, you know, like be it biathlon or kabaddi or anything at all. Which is, I mean, it's crazy now. Like there's nothing on TV to watch at all. I'm going. In fact, yesterday or Sunday, which was yesterday. I ended up watching. There was a program on BBC Two about the 1968 Rugby League Challenge Cup final, which was called the Splashdown final, and I watched the whole thing and thoroughly enjoyed it. I would literally watch anything, but it's the drama of it, you know, and the other thing is the unscripted nature of sport is what appeals to me. Like, anything can happen, and in this day and age where, like, they want the top two teams to get to the final, but it still doesn't happen because it's unscripted and anything can happen, and that's why I just love watching it. And you know, be it on TV, be it live. Obviously, live is even better. Apart from rugby, I always find rugby you're better watching on TV than being there for some reason. I don't know, but
the replays, I think sometimes you don't know what happens, so it's handy to have someone explaining it for you. Yeah,
exactly.
He's offside. The ball is the other side of the net. Why is he offside?
So, but
Ash, we were always told that, you know, that the fans and the people there supporting us, that it means as much to them as it does for us, right? So we would say cup finals. Thankfully, a lot of us were involved in cup finals and winning leagues, etc., etc. But is it really as enjoyable for the fans? Because the players, when you're in it, sometimes after, I remember we won the league in 2005 and we went back to Rochestown Park, and I think at one thing I was physically drained. complete. I know. Well, I know we spent about 4 hours in the shed after it as well. Do you know what I mean? But like, we went back, and I was physically drained. I could not enjoy it. You know, now I enjoyed it subsequent nights after that. But for a fan, is that excitement there as well?
Oh, it is, and you like there's, I think, like that, like I'm still celebrating 2005, Dennis. To be honest with you.
So am I.
but it's that memory, that you know, that buzz, that, you know, it's a great memory to have, and it's, I think with me, the reason 2005 like was there was so much relief after it, because like in the what was it, the one, like, you know, coming down to the last game and whoever won the league kind of thing, which had happened a good few years earlier, around maybe 91 against Dundalk, and Dundalk came down and beat us 1-0, and like that was that, you know, there's there's 3 or 4 kind of sporting defeats that I still get a bit of a pain in my soul over, and one is that you know, when Wim Kieft like scored against Ireland with that top spin header in '88, and it's terrible. It's still there. It still catches me. Like, but the other, like that Dundalk defeat was like, oh, it was awful, terrible. And another one is like losing the Bows in the FA Cup final, which was I think '92. But then there's the victories, then stay with you so much as well. And I mean, 2005 was one of them where like you couldn't have scripted it. Like, it was last night at the shed. You know, whoever won was walking away with the league. In fact, did Derry just need to draw?
That was it. Yeah. So we were lucky that time that we had Derry banging the drum on the way out of the door, and you know, that whole night, just, or even that week, Hoggy, you know, I think that the whole week just went to plan, didn't it? As such, you know, and luckily we were at that point behind. That point behind meant we had a single focus, and that was it to win, you know.
Yeah.
Do you remember how when we were up in I think it was the first game of the season up at Finn Harps, we were up in Bundoran, and it was the very first game, I think, and you and me, Hogs, we were all walking on a team walk there up by the cliffs by the beach, and we both, there was a weird feeling, wasn't there? There was a weird togetherness or vibe about that squad that we both turned around to each other and we kind of said, something's going to happen here, like, you know, we both felt it here.
I remember, and you kept that memory. You said it at the end of the season, you know, that, do you remember at the very first day that we met up, we kind of knew something special was going to happen. And I wonder, actually, like, you know, you say sport is unscripted or whatever, but like, I remember going to a gig of yours, saying in Whelan's now, and obviously, you know what you're going to play and all that, but surely you can't know how well the gig is going to go, or do you know, do you have particular, like, that gig was unbelievable in Whelan's, right, that night, which I remember, right, as a fan, and it, like, on Dennis's points, like, you must have been exhausted, but I was exhausted from the whole experience with dancing around to you as well.
Yeah.
You must have some ups and downs as well, do you, as a band, really?
Oh, totally. It like that, you know, like the adrenaline you get, the adrenaline rush you get from like nailing a song, and the audience and the band just being in sync at that moment in time. It must be similar to banging in a goal, or, you know, clearing it off the line or something, because it's just like everything we've practiced for comes together, everything you've trained for comes together. Like, they're quite close now. Like, I've spoken to football players over the years, and even All Ireland winners and stuff, and it's like, you know, hurlers and that, and it's like there seems to be a kind of a similar thing in it, you know. I think that the big thing with music is that if you're too slick, it falls off the cliff the other way. Okay. Whereas I don't know, is that true of sport? I think sport, the better prepared and the better practiced you are, the better you'll perform. But I think music is a weird one in that it's like we've done gigs where the audience would think it's been perfect, and it's probably been as perfect as we play it, but we don't get to rush off it, because, you know, it's the best time when you're on stage is when everything can fall apart at any minute. Yes, this doesn't.
It's that little on the edge moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and pulling it out of the fire. There's no better feeling than pulling
exactly
a gig or a game out of the fire. It's brilliant, you know.
But I'd say the venue helps with that too, Ash. Does it, like, you get a vibe from the crowd? Does everything start working off each other, depending on what kind of energy the crowd is bringing, or what energy the venue is creating in the crowd? That transfers. Well, from watching ye playing and other bands playing, that seems to have a big effect for music.
Totally, yeah. I mean, the venue's everything, you know, and it's like, you know, it's weird, and I've had conversations with like theatre designers about this, and it makes no sense. But like, it's some venues have a magic and some don't, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like Whelan's, you know, is one of them places. It's just got some sort of magic in there. Like Sir Henry's had it. Some venues have it and some don't. And when everything clicks, it's just, you know, it's going to be a magic night, and that's, you know, you might as well go with it, because you can't fight it. So.
Yeah. And Ash, with the uniforms, is that like, you brought in the uniforms? You had different ones for a while, and then you got rid of them, didn't you? And then you brought back the orange ones you're wearing lately. But is that a conscious decision to try and get into the zone, and to try and even nearly use football or sport as a type of practice for that, like to get in the right frame of mind and know that you have to be on it?
Yeah, it's like you're a team, and I mean, you know, one of the easiest ways to identify it as a team is that if you're all wearing the same thing, and it totally works. And it like we, you know, it's happened to us a few times over the last, like, I mean, we're back wearing the uniforms maybe the last like 10 years now, and I mean, there was a period where we just turned up in our own clothes, and it just wasn't the same. We couldn't figure it out. We didn't want to go back to the uniforms because it seemed like, you know, like, it was just a bit wacky, or, you know, are we getting too old for all that kind of stuff? And but when we went back to it, it just felt so right, and then we just carried on. It kind of, you know, no matter what sort of day you're having, it's like we all have kind of outside jobs and families and that, but it's like the minute you put on the gear, you're part of the team, and you go out there, and it makes it easier to perform, you know. So
yeah.
And Ash, what made you because you say you're in the goal because football wasn't great outfield. Doing the drums is definitely one of the hardest parts of a band, I would think, anyway, you know. So what made you go down that route?
It was just,
you can't sing.
I don't know. Exactly. like I definitely can't sing anyway. But it was just, I was always, like, as a kid, I was just always tapping things. You know, it was like, I used to have my mum's wooden spoons and the upturned biscuit tins, and, you know, and it just seemed, you know, when I guess everyone does it when you're in school, when you're like 14 or 15, and someone has a great idea for them in a band. It was like, okay, I'll get a drum set, and that was it. And it just, like, even when the first time I sat down behind the drum kit, I sort of knew what to do. I mean, it was still sounding crap, but I kind of knew what to do. And I don't know why. It just, from, you know, watching Top of the Pops growing up or whatever, and you just see drummers and you're kind of trying to figure out what they do, but obviously, you know, you can't tell exactly what they're doing. But I sort of just started building up quite quickly, and was able to play along, even though we were all at the same level, which was like a minus level. Like, shocking, obviously, but it was like.
But you knew you could get good at it, I'd say, Ash. Did you? You knew you had something there that you were going to be able to master it. And
yeah, and it was great. It was great as the fact that we were all at the same level, because we all kind of came up, you know, by degrees together, you know, which was grand.
And
like,
skipping forward to that, Ash, then when you got to the Top of the Pops, when you were saying there that, like, that was a dream, you must have been, when you got the news, how did the news come to you that you were going on Top of the Pops? Can you remember? That was early 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Like, that's probably like us dreaming of scoring goals in finals, or Wembley, playing for Ireland. You know, playing on Top of the Pops back then is you can't compare it to today's world.
Yeah, it was just
plucked out of Cork and brought over there, like, you know, next to Paul McCartney's dressing room. It's a pretty huge jump.
It was nuts. But it was just a phone call from the BBC saying, you know, your single is charted quite high. Would you like to come on Top of the Pops? And it was like, yeah, that was it. So, but it was, I mean, it was amazing. That's kind of that was, you know, that was the dream. And it's very hard to explain Top of the Pops to people these days, you know, because, like, it just meant so much, like, if you were a kid growing up, it was like that was it. That was your one dose of music.
That was your YouTube, Spotify, Twitter. That was everything rolled into one, like that half hour.
Totally. Yeah.
Just on the football, so Ash, again, comparing it to the music, like obviously we started off with schoolboy clubs, you know, you get a call going to a semi-professional or professional then, you know, and you're working your way up the ladder. Is it quite similar in music as well? You're constantly kind of working your way up the ladder and...
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's like you know, you start off doing support gigs for kind of bands who are more experienced than you and have a bit of a following, and just, you know, once you build up a following, then you start doing small venues yourself, and you kind of go up like most cities will have, you know, a kind of a 60, 70, 80 capacity venue, and then it'll move up to 200, 300, and you know, so it's trying to move up that gig ladder in every city you can visit, basically, and you know, getting the songs up there, getting played on the radio, kind of having a professional enough sounding song or CD to get radio play, and then building it up like that, and having enough songs to release an album, trying to sell as many, touring it, and that it's just, you know, you're trying to just go up the ladder all the time, you know. And then when you get to a rung that you're kind of quite comfortable at, like, I mean, we always knew we were never going to be at Madonna's level or whoever, but I don't know why Madonna came into it. But like, we were kind of happy where we were at that kind of, you know, alternative music kind of 1,000 capacity venues or whatever, trying to stay there as long as you can to try and make a living, you know. And like, I suppose, like with us, like, I mean, music changed a lot with us. Like back then, you needed a record label. These days, you don't really need a record label, you know. So there's been a lot of change, but it's still essentially just, you know, trying to get up the ladder, and when you kind of get to the top, or where you feel you should be, trying to stay there as long as you can, and that's pretty much.
And do you feel Ash, I was watching last podcast with Dominic and Dave, and Dominic was saying that nowadays there's players from all over the world, you know, there's players everywhere, and it's very hard to make it in. Back when he was going on to us, that era, you know, ultimately was Ireland, England, a bit of Europe, whereas was it the music industry now, because you built your way up and you got to a level, do you feel that nowadays somebody can just be an instant hit and then they're forgotten about 2 minutes later because there's too many of them around?
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of the way it turns over these days is very tough. There are acts that get up there quite quick, but they're back down and kind of unheard of quite quick as well, you know. So it's just, I suppose it's the nature of the way social media has kind of taken over, and the download.
Do you believe because you
culture.
grew slowly and you kind of gathered a following and a following and a following and a following, it's harder for you to fall than acts that literally go overnight?
Maybe so. I kind of hadn't thought about it, but it does make sense, you know. And you know, I mean, the other thing is sticking at it. I mean, there's like we did a 30-year gig last year. I mean, there's very few bands out there.
I'd say after you two in this country, I'd say you two. You're next. Like, you're probably the biggest band after them at staying constantly playing for that long. Ash, I know there's bands that got back together and stuff, but like as big bands go, like you're probably just after them, aren't you, in the country? Like, so that's just shows longevity.
I suppose, yeah. I mean,
how about you go, Ashley?
Sorry, go on. No, go on.
How about managers, Ashley? Did you have managers along the way? Like, managers would play a big part in our world, and agents as well. But would you have had managers you self-manage, and if you had managers, did they play a different role? Like, did you get on with them?
Tough question. You see by look in his face, that's a tough one.
He had somebody in his mind's eye when he said that.
I don't know anything about genuinely.
That's an interesting one. That's something I would have never thought about before, but it's totally true. And like a manager can make or break a band, you know. We did have managers over the years, like some good and some bad, and we got like very good advice off some and very bad advice, and also the old kind of A&R man who would have been your artist and repertoire representative at the label, who'd kind of guide you.
Right.
I suppose from an artistic point of view, but again, you get good ones and bad ones. Same as the world of sport, I suppose, you know. But now, like we're we're self-managed these days, so we're kind of player managers at the moment. I guess.
We've
Kenny
all
Dalglish.
exactly. We've all got a bit of advice that we would have kind of remembered through the years on the 9s, 10s, 12s, and you know, might have dropped in 5 years later, 10 years later. The same as that, I presume, in a band. You go, bloody hell, I remember that happened, and I remember I did that, and then eventually just starts coming together, does it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, like one of the best pieces of advice like we ever got was from a fellow musician, actually. Just that just like whatever you put out to the public, it was, you know, make sure you've told the truth. So like what he was essentially saying was that only write about what you know, you know. Like don't write about, you know, like driving Lamborghinis down Sunset Boulevard if you've never owned a Lamborghini and you've never been to Los Angeles. So
whatever about you, Ash? I couldn't picture Paul in a Lamborghini.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
What about a highest Stone Patrick Street? That'd be all right, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be more fitting.
Well, that would be fine. Like we knew about high aces in Patrick Street, so that would be fine. But it was so true, you know. Just and I mean, like, that probably goes for sports people as well, because, you know, obviously the rewards in sport can be so big, and if you know, sometimes you look at, like, especially in the UK, like the professionals, and some professionals, like, it just goes so bling and goes so to their heads, and like it's like the tattoos on the inside of their eyelids, and the thing is just it just goes mad. You'd be wondering, like, what are these guys when they give up the game? What are they going to do? Like, what are they going to become? It's I mean, and like for every David Beckham, who obviously has his, you know, his head screwed on right, there's plenty of others who don't who don't kind of, you know, work well, and, you know, wants to. I mean, that's probably a question for yourselves. Like, you know, once you do kind of like hang up the boots, or that must be really tough, is it?
You make a podcast, Murph.
Yeah, FVTV is the answer to that.
Murph is like the retirement.
You can get a library there.
Retirement home. It's a retirement home for ex-footballers.
Get a library like Hoggy and Derek and just read all that.
Read books. On my side, I think it's family kind of kicks in after that. Really,
Gotcha,
you know yourself on the road, Ash. You know, it can be it can be kind of hard, and the amount of weddings, funerals, birthday parties, you name it, that we missed. You know, that you kind of just get back into those now. So family kind of becomes a bit more a part of your world than it did before, because ultimately you were gone and doing whatever you were. So it takes a while to adjust to that, because ultimately you're nearly a 21-year-old still in a 35-year-old's body sometimes, you know, because you still want to be out playing, doing stuff and doing what you used to do, but you can't. You've family and commitments at home. So there is a big mind adjustment, and I think that's why some footballers find it very hard when they do come off the back of a retirement. They don't have something to look forward to, and they just stop and finish. I think that could be quite tough, you know.
Yeah. And for me, actually, I suppose I was in a position where, like, I was only 28 retiring, so it was either give up the job or give up soccer. So for me, I was kind of nearly forced into it. So I was forced into making a decision. So it kind of just happened, and then I went watching your gigs for a few years and stuff like that until the kids came along. So yeah, no, it is hard.
Is that all you were, 28? Yeah.
I was 28, when I retired. That's when, like, it was gone full. The league was gone full time, you know. So.
Yeah.
It was only about a year or two later when City hit the wall, really, you know.
Yeah. God.
Hoggy, you'd your head screwed on, really. You were kind of studying during football and stuff. And did you get any advice in that way, or did you just do it off your own back, or what? Or?
I suppose my father was big into education, to be honest, so I wouldn't have gotten away with not doing school and not going to college if, you know, he wouldn't have had it really. But I enjoyed it. I suppose when we went full time, I was lucky I was able to do both. Then, like, I mean, getting a bit of a wage for Cork City and going to college at the same time was like a dream for me. You know, going to
Best of both worlds.
the best of it was brilliant, like, and full time to an extent. It didn't amount to the same, I don't know what height as that almost, because it was more serious and, you know, it was great and we got better and all that on the pitch, obviously, but as a kind of way of life, being part-time footballer amongst guys who were able to drink at the weekend and go to college was just unbelievable. But what I was going to say, actually, I wanted to ask you something about Ian Brody. Is it Ian Brody, the guy you went over to? Yeah. Like, what was he like? He's from the Lightning Seeds, and wasn't he the guy with the song "Football's Coming Home" and all that?
Yeah, yeah.
You get chatting to him about football, or?
Yeah, he's a massive Liverpool FC fan, like huge fan.
Is he?
Absolutely huge fan. Yeah. He's like season ticket holder since he was. I remember he was telling us, I think for his 8th birthday he got a season ticket, and has had it ever since. And he must be just hitting 60 around now. But yeah, we'd still keep in touch with him. But, you know, brilliant producer. He would have worked with like a lot of our favorite bands, like Echo and the Bunnymen, and, you know, people like that when we were kind of getting into music, and then to get a chance to work with him on a few things, including our biggest single After All was great. But and he did a lot of work for her.
Did you go over to work with him?
We were living in London. We were living in London at the time, and there was he was running a studio up in Liverpool, and he heard a song that we had released that was on our first album, but the song was After All, but the way it was recorded, it was very kind of low key and downbeat. Right. And he just heard something in the song that he
did
that he liked, and but at the same time, our manager got in touch with him just to say, would you work with the lads someday? And he said, well, I'd actually love to work on that song. So which was a strange one, because it was already recorded, and we went up and we listened to his ideas and kind of fooled around with a few of the things that he was saying. And like if you ever played the two versions back to back, the Ian Brody version is just like a monster of a pop song, whereas the other one is kind of like a nice little ditty. Okay. You know, they're worlds apart. I mean, both of them have their own particular charm, but his, like, the version that he did, like, even like you still hear on the radio today, and I mean that was recorded in 1992, like, which is what 28 years ago, and like it still sounds as if it was recorded yesterday. Whatever he brought to it, he just made it into this classic sound that's never really gone out of fashion. It's weird what he did with it, but it worked, and I mean we'll always be thankful to him, because it's, you know, it's the song that's kind of, you know, whenever we've drifted out of people's consciousness, and I mean we thought we were, you know, kind of like sauntering away into the sunset, and then the Young Offenders happened, and suddenly it's like people want to come to our gigs again, which is mad. But it's ups and downs, peaks and troughs, swings and roundabouts, you know, whatever cliche you want to use. But it's just it's pretty much down to, you know, to that song and a few others, which is great.
The similarities across is crazy, you know, from managers to the way you get through things and go through things. But again, that little bit of luck as well, you know. Like
meeting an influential person that
at the right time and has your best interest at heart, and all of a sudden you just get that little bit of luck, and that timing is bang on, you know.
Of course, yeah. It's right place, right time, you know. So.
And Ash, your hard work is massive as well. Like I look at you, like even the venues, you could be 8 o'clock on a Saturday night in Independence in front of how many thousand people, and next you could be playing the smallest venue then, like a week later. It's like you would play you just work so hard compared to other bands. Am I right there?
Yeah. We like, it's, you know, it's we get such a buzz from playing. You know, it's just we don't care where it is. Like, we turn up anywhere. So
Yeah.
we love it. Like, and of course, like all trades or professions, you might get a bit bored of it. You just like, we always keep coming back to it. Like, we've never really, you know, like, you know, myself and Paul are at it now long. Like, we've been in band since we were 14, and you know, like, every few years we have to chat. Like, it's like, oh, we're getting old now. Maybe we should, and then, like, you know, that goes on for, like, you know, a couple of days. Like, and then we go, nah. Let's go out again. Let's record something else, release something else, tour somewhere else, you know. But these things keep popping up, like, and it's just mad. Like, we've kind of trying to grow gracefully. It's just not happening.
They're not letting you. That's good. That's good.
And just that similarities there again. Just listen to you speak there. Like, you know, you thought you were sailing into the sunset or whatever, and then Young Offenders came on. So, like, how does the mentality come in there? Because obviously we dreamed about being professional footballers, playing for, you know, Barcelona or Manchester United, but then you kind of grow up and, you know, that's kind of out of your reach, and you kind of realize your level and stuff like that. Like, how do you take it in a band, like, going through the years with mentality ups and downs? And
I think it's like when you're younger, you're kind of worried about that, and, you know, you're worried about meeting other bands, and, you know, not being kind of as cool as other bands and that. But I think when you just kind of cop yourself on in your kind of late 20s, and you just do it for you, you know. I mean, I must say, I've always been, like, you know, like, I've met, you know, big rock stars or pop stars or whatever, but I get more nervous meeting footballers, to be honest. I mean, like that time, like, we would have met Paul McCartney, who was, like, obviously one of the biggest pop stars in the world ever, on when we did Top of the Pops. But, like, I got more nervous meeting John Caulfield when it's like we were playing we were playing
That's definitely the headline out of this anyway. As we have the headline.
I know, we were more nervous with John.
we were playing Cumbran away, and we went up to the game up in Wales, the European Cup. It was that run which we ended up getting knocked out against Galatasaray. And I remember we went down to the ground to have a look and see could you buy tickets and stuff. And it's kind of the team obviously had arrived, and John Caulfield came around the corner. And, like, we were more nervous saying hi to him than we were meeting Paul McCartney or anything, you know. So it was, I think because you're just so used to your own kind of surroundings. Like, it's probably when carpenters meet electricians, they're a bit like, oh God, he's an electrician. You know whether that's true or not.
But then when he meets a plumber, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if the plumber's Davy Barry.
Yeah. And just as a fan, Ash, what is it about a player that, just you specifically, when you're watching a game, obviously atmosphere and stuff like that, but what is it that does it for you about a player on a pitch? What's he do right? What's he do to engage you, really?
It's players that give their all, and that are out there and giving their all. Like, they'll stick their head in front of a boot, or like they'll run till they drop. They're the players that I've always, like, you know, you can get a fella who can do the tricks, like, and do the step overs and that, but it's like a fella who, like, you know, throw the hand. That's why I like League of Ireland, you know. It's like, and like when I was growing up, I was a Chelsea fan, but I haven't been in years, because I remember, like, one time going there. This is a long time ago now, but going into the Superstore in Stamford Bridge, and you couldn't get out unless you bought something. And it was, like, to me, that wasn't football at all. Like, you would actually call someone who would then call security and escort you out of the Superstore. So you couldn't get out unless you bought something, basically, unless you looked like a fella who was getting thrown out of the Superstore. And I've never been back to Stamford Bridge since, you know. And it's like, it's, you know, that League of Ireland, it's like, you know, I mean, of course, in League of Ireland, you get your pre-Benadas too, like, but it's guys on the pitch, and they're willing to give everything for the jersey, which is, you know,
isn't there something
huge,
special, Ash, about
huge, like,
in League of Ireland when lads I suppose they're playing for their career, they're playing for their livelihood, they're playing for their dream. I think it's that lovely level in League of Ireland, which you'd love to see more people maybe experience it. But it's just that level where fellas are playing for their career. They still have hopes and dreams of putting on the green jersey for Ireland and stuff. And I think you get that, and fellas are willing to empty the tank every match. And it's such a close-knit community with the fans on top of you, and you kind of know a lot of the fans. And there's a lovely kind of a balance there with League of Ireland.
There is, and it's like like we've got there's a huge amount of football fans in the country, but only a tiny percentage of them go and watch our own league. Like it's a crazy situation, and it has to be addressed. And I mean, maybe having Stephen Kenny, like, wouldn't be the biggest Stephen Kenny fan now, like with the Dundalk connection and that, but still, like maybe there's something in that will, I mean, he's managed to make it to the top of the rung into international management from the League of Ireland. So, maybe that's something. And you look at
Jack Byrne,
can help
and Jack Byrne may be playing next year under Stephen playing in the league.
Yeah.
And what would your hopes say for the league be, Ash? You know, the way, like we were talking about that, I suppose those League of Ireland players that are playing for their livelihood and trying to get up that ladder, like we talked about. Like, what would you like to see the League of Ireland as? Like, what kind of a level? You don't want to go on like the Premier League. We never want to see that in 20 years' time. That's just too far the other way, isn't it?
Totally. But I mean, like, and I guess, like, if a Premier League team comes in, of course the kid has to go. You have to. Like, there's no. But like, I'd love to see the day when, even championship level, you'd have to go. Scottish Premiership, you'd probably have to go. But I'd love to see the days when kids start turning down kind of the League One and League Two or Scottish First Division stuff and going, like, I'm better off here. Like, I can,
But that looks like it's starting to happen with Dundalk, even with Shamrock Rovers at the moment.
It does, and like, hopefully, I think if that. If that can keep going, and maybe in 10 years' time, guys won't be so worried about going to the championship either. If you got to that level, it would be amazing, Well,
especially with the new setup in the FAI, hopefully that's looking good. The sounds out of that seem good at the moment.
Yeah. Hopefully.
But isn't it a double-edged sword? It's like everything does. It's always down to money. No matter what way the wind blows, it's down to money and finances. And Cork City being the top of the 7,000 people when we were playing. The shed was, in theory, there was 7,000, but it was probably 15,000 at last night at the shed. It was just unbelievable. And then you go right down to 1,000, 2,000. You see Shamrock Rovers up there getting down. Like, to get that level playing field for everybody, I think the FAI has to start having more of an influence in that, which I think they will do under the new regime. I do believe that, especially with Stephen being head of the posse now as manager. But you can't have teams going up and down like that. It just doesn't keep any bit of momentum in terms of, I'll go to them, and then you build your history slowly but surely.
Yeah, totally. And hopefully Niall Quinn has kind of some sort of plan in his back pocket that he'll. I mean, now isn't the time to be rolling it out, but maybe get 1 or 2 years down the line, and we'll see. I mean, it has to change. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So hopefully it will. And I mean, there's enough. Like, even there's just so many clubs in the country, so many good clubs. And I mean, it's actually great to see Colin O'Brien doing well with the young lads as well. I mean, that's amazing.
Definitely.
So. In fairness,
Colin's very good, but infrastructure as well, though. And thankfully, Abbottstown is definitely starting to lead the way forward. There, some of the infrastructure up there is superb. Dublin is getting very strong, but it's infrastructure as you come outside the capital is not still good enough to attract more people there. Even Dundalk as champions, the ground still has an awful long way to go to being a decent ground.
Totally, yeah.
The sound system, I'm looking forward to, after all, being pumped out in a decent sound system, Ash. The first thing I try in the cross, the big sound system.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, it has been a pleasure to go out in games with you playing after all, like, because that's been a fixture down there now for maybe the last 6 or 7 years. I don't know if you've noticed that, Ashley, before Cork City. Yeah. Like, because it wasn't there when I first started playing. Certainly, Derek, was it?
No.
And then, it's at some stage you became the Cork City tune
I think that was after our attempt to do a song, Hoggy. Remember out in Red FM? We tried to do a song. I did the Banks, was it? And they tried to roll it out, and eventually that was. They said we leave it to the professionals. We walk away.
But I think something that Ashley mentioned earlier, I know you were mentioning it in terms of when you were 4, like, and the disconnect between, you know, the game you were watching in Flower Lodge versus over, you know, abroad. But I think actually the disconnect is still there for like 25, 26-year-olds in Ireland in their soccer between our League of Ireland and the broader game. And I think that's what needs to change. And I think with Stephen Kenny, who Derek won a league under, coming in now, they're going to see like there is a link between the global game, which they all support, and this game down the road that they haven't looked at yet really. Like, so hopefully things are moving in the right direction there. My boring bit there, lads.
Yeah.
No,
Well, Ash, what age were you?
amazing.
What age were you, Ash, when City started? 84. So we well, what were you?
84. So I'm 67. So 84. It was 67 from 84. Anyone good at maths? You're good at maths, yeah.
He's one of us went to college.
Huggy, surely in that bookshelf. Surely in that bookshelf you have a calculator. Come on, Huggy.
Yeah.
You say 85, did you? 18, is it?
84.
17, were you?
17.
17, yeah.
So, Ash, was it love at first sight with Cork City, or was there a bit of a bedding in time when, you know, because there was no club for a while and you were used to Hibs and Celtic, kind of, like that would have been before. So I wouldn't have known much about the Celtic and Hibs, you know. So I'm just wondering what way was it when they started off, when City started?
I think it was when it moved to the Cross. It kind of like the lads. There was very few people going down in the early days, and it was, you know, it was very kind of haphazard. And there'd be players in for a while. You'd just be getting to know the players, and then it would kind of change around. There was I suppose there was a couple of English lads. I mean, was it Stuart Ashton would have been there at that stage?
Yeah.
Would he? I mean, he's still in Cork, obviously.
Great,
but there was it was. I suppose it was just great to have it. I remember I was in the Navy at the time, so I was kind of getting to all the games I could, but again it was very kind of haphazard, and but when they moved, I'm presuming it was the second season they moved back to Turner's Cross. Or I don't remember fully, but I think it was when they moved back to the Cross where it started getting good. And then it was like when they won the League Cup against they beat Shamrock Rovers in the league. The final of the League Cup was on a Wednesday afternoon, I think. Down in the Cross. That was, was that 89 or something? And I think from then things really kind of like it felt like a lot of the lads that I was going, you know, to the game with, they'd be like maybe like 7 or 8 of us, and we met other groups of, you know, 7 or 8 lads all around the same age, and then it started to feel like our club, whereas, you know, Hibs and Celtic were my dad's and my uncle's club, and this was actually our club, and we were there at the start, and then we started organising buses and going to away games, and, you know, and the suddenly you had something to look forward to. You had like the home games on the Sundays, and well, I suppose all the football was on a Sunday at that stage, but it suddenly felt like your club. And then going up, and there was more people traveling, and suddenly I remember, I think it was 1990, there was an away match against St. Pat's up in Inchicore, and I remember City fans outnumbering the Pats fans, which was mad. Like, it was just one of the best away days ever. And then, you know, it just grew from there. Missed out on the league against Dundalk that year, but I think it was 2 years later when we won it, and that bizarre kind of playoff thing that happened. Oh, yeah. We won it at the RDS of all places. Like,
no, can't be there at RDS. Great ground.
Yeah. So
fast forward 20 odd years later, when the club nearly went, when Forrest came in. Like, you must have been, like, for people like you who were there from the start, it must have been a tough time watching that unfold.
Yeah, and it's just it was. I mean, I suppose you had a similar thing with, you know, with Bishopstown when the club moved out there, which was, you know, it always felt like a strange move. We were kind of moving Cork football away from its traditional home and that, and kind of things nearly went to the wall then, and then finally did a few years later. It was awful, but I mean, it was. I mean, the comeback was unbelievable. Like beating Sheffield.
Yeah.
That day was like, that was unreal. Like, so I suppose the you got that the second golden age or whatever, the third golden age or whatever out of that as well. So even though it wasn't great at the time, and I think like they'll always be, like, Cork City will always be there. It might be boom and bust, which is very frustrating, but you can see even like with Neil Fenn. Now, I haven't been to a lot of matches, to be honest. I mean, Friday night is probably the worst night for me. It's like, not to sound like an old codger, like, but I'd love to go back to the Sunday.
Oh, I'd second that, Ash. Second, the Sunday 2:00 matches were brilliant.
Yeah, they were great.
Oh,
great.
I loved them.
But like I mean, like what he did with Longford was great. Like, he seems to have the right attitude and the right philosophy about football anyway. So it's just hopefully he can get it. I suppose, I mean, if the mid-table this season would be great, and then just build from there. I mean, the population is there. People will come out if they think it's worth it.
But that's the interesting one. You talk about population and the bandwagon and the crowds coming up and crowds coming down. When Cork City when they became in '84, where did the 20,000 Hibs and Cork Celtic, where did the 20 on either side go? And then you ended up having 1,000 people at a City game.
Yeah. I think people just got disillusioned. It was like when I went to it was like Cork Alberts, and then it became Cork United, and it was just everything was being kind of diluted all the time, and it was people just kind of were thinking that this Cork City thing was going to be another flash in the pan. They'd get halfway through the season, it would be wound up again, and but luckily it didn't. It's still there all these years later. But I mean, like Cork soccer definitely does suffer from that. Like, when the team is doing well, I mean, you can't get a ticket, and when they're not doing well, it's no one wants to go. It does suffer it, but I suppose everywhere else does as well. It's just one of them things. But
European nights for us were always the best. So trips away or whatever, they were always the highlight. Yeah. Are they the highlight for you as well, or is the bread and butter of the league still as good?
European nights are special, all right. Like, there's definitely something about it. I mean, like like that's where when I was kind of old enough to want to learn about football, and you were like, I trawled through the sports pages, look at and all these names like Carl Zeiss Jena and Torpedo Moscow and SK
Moscow,
Sofia, and who was the other? There was another team I used to always watch out for their results. Used to always lose. Fram Reykjavik, they were the Icelandic team. But like you'd be going through the paper, especially European nights, and you'd see, you go down through the results, and the Magdeburg getting beaten by, some Bulgarian team or whatever, and then like you get an asterisk on one, and it would be like 4-4 on aggregate, such and such go through on away goals, and that was like magic. You were like, oh my god, another thing that I've just learned about the away goal rule, and the asterisk meant so much. And then suddenly to have your club competing, in like years later, to have your hometown club competing in Europe, it's just magical. Like, it's you never thought that a club from Cork would have an asterisk next to their name. Like, yes, that time after Cumbran, it was like 3-2 away and 2-1 in the cross, and it was like, asterisk 4-4. Cork City go through on away goals, and it was just like, yes, I can give up now. I'm happy now.
It's on full circle. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah, so it was like, yeah, Europe is definitely special. Like, and it does. I think it does generate a different atmosphere. Even the home games, there's an exoticness to it or something that you don't get you know, when you're playing Finn Harps or whatever.
the weather and location have a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Everyone's opinion is their own on this.
Exactly. one of the most picturesque airports in the country or in the world, even would take it. But I remember we played Nantes, and we had there were stickers on the seats. How you might know that 1-0. We were playing Nantes.
Yeah.
And
I love your pronunciation, Dennis.
Well, would you like to say it a bit more French? Well, there was stickers on the seats like 2-0 because again the away goal, you know, because had we scored away, Hogs? Had we scored?
Yeah, Fenny scored, I think.
That was it. Was a 2-1 or 3-1 we were losing at the time? 3-1. And we 2-0. There was banners. There were 2-0, 2-0, 2-0.
And Doyler scored.
And Doyler scored.
Yeah.
But that cross, I never forget it. The pitch was immaculate. The sun was out. The crowd was there. It was just an unbelievable game, you know. But then, you know, they turned that afterwards. There was just a different level again. But it was quality. Absolutely, the buzz around the town for that game was unreal.
Yeah. It was unreal. Actually, hang on. I just found this there today, Derek.
Hey.
Was that when we? That was our first meetup. It was like a blind date. We brought presents for each other all.
I know, yeah. I think I swapped three Franks albums for a
3 francs albums for a jersey. Not a bad deal. I did well.
You did well over it.
That was in the slug in the Castle Ash, wasn't it?
That's right. And I got a red one off you too.
Oh, there you go. You see, I was generous. That wasn't bad.
Number 5, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But they were the mailbags, weren't they, Hoggy, Le Coq Sportive?
Your CDs are back.
I'm trying to guess the years there. Was it 2004 and probably 99, I'd say, Derek? It's gone.
Le Coq Sportive.
Definitely 2004, because I wore that as well. And when they got wet, geez, they're done by your ankles, like. They were unbelievable, the weight of them.
We were only looking at the 98.
Remember?
That's right. And my wife said, like, the 98 Cup final, the replay, the white jersey. I found in the shed recently, and the kids were trying on some of the jersey. It's massive. It was like a dress.
There was no fitting back then. One size fits all.
You remember the shorts, Dennis? The Le Coq Sportive shorts?
Oh, my God almighty.
They had pockets in them. I don't know why.
That's because we used to be having the coin around the pitch. How do you do with that? Whoever was left with the coin at the end of the game had to buy around the drink. So we had the pockets. You'd be going for a corner, you'd hand the fella a coin. What's that for?
But if they got wet, they weighed about 2 kilos.
Oh my God.
They were unbelievable.
That's not what your ankle. It literally was the worst jersey I've ever in my life worn. It was like a mail.
Actually, were you at the Bayern Munich game, Ashley, out of interest, the home game?
No, I was in London. I was in London for that. Yeah. Because we were living in London, we couldn't get back for it. It was again, that was a Wednesday afternoon job, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I missed it as well. Yeah.
But they had highlights on the BBC European roundup that night. I remember we were living in a YMCA at the time in London, in Wimbledon actually, and remember booking the TV with like the communal TV. Book the TV to watch the highlights of the game. Like, so, yeah.
And they showed it. I remember that on Eurosport. All right, they showed the 2 goals.
That's right. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Derek,
I do have the program somewhere. All right, someone got it for me and posted it over to me, but it's in kind of a drawer of memorabilia at home, I think, in my mum's house.
With all the holly bows, is it, Ash?
Yeah.
Didn't all the holly bows.
Derek, sorry, last little bit, you were going to speak about you're looking at setting up a choir to sing at games.
I'm not looking at setting it up. I said, like, I think it'd be great.
You're going to have some influence on it. I'm sure Ash.
Well, no, it was just something I was thinking of. I was talking to Ash about it during the week. Yeah. I just think that, first of all, the sound system, and it's not Cork City's, like, money is so tight and stuff like that. But it's if you did see money coming into the league, it's that kind of stuff you'd like to see happen. You know, just sort out the infrastructure at grounds and stuff like that, and try and make the experience as, you know, when you're not top of the league or winning matches and you don't have your 6,000-7,000 people at the games, that you're still getting a decent base out there. And I suppose anything you can do to to work on that would be fantastic. And I was just thinking maybe people like Ash, said it was time we said goodnight, or plenty times, that if you could do a kind of an anthem version of that songs, and even people put it out online for people to practice, that you just created like our own identity with the songs. I know they sing that, and it's good. When things are going, we sing that song that all the clubs sing. There's a Cork, it seems to be the anthem now for every club. But I'd just love to see it if we create a couple of our own kind of soccer anthems, like with the likes of some of the Frank songs, and Murty with the Sultans of Ping, get onto him to do another Cork City fan who's a drummer. I don't know what the story is with drummers in Cork City. But I get someone like Murty to do, maybe give him a ball in the air, the grass, things like that. And if you could get it where you could
orchestrate
that it's like a soccer anthem,
Yeah, like you see in Germany.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like that, the Yellow Wall. I saw like a kind of a documentary on YouTube with that, the Borussia Dortmund thing, and it was like they started in kind of a, like pretty much a youth club, and there was like 20 or 30 of them, and they built it up from there. Suddenly, it's like the biggest flipping terrace in Europe, and it's like that. That's where it all came from just a few lads getting together and organising stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, the German stuff is like, and I suppose the Eastern European stuff, the ultra stuff is unbelievable. Like, but I mean, there's and it's been done to a smaller extent in League of Ireland already. So it's like it's just tapping into what's there already.
Yeah, like I think Bows are doing a good. A good thing at the moment, but they don't have the likes of the Frank and Walters, though, as fans, and
exactly,
Johnny Logan. So surely we can do better than that.
Was Madonna a fan? I actually think Madonna's a fan. Derek actually sent what you call it, stage of your song, and he was showing you on the drums at the end. I'm telling you, if you went out
that was Funky Cole Medina and the Spiegel tent -07.
Oh, the Spiegel tent, was it?
That was class. You did a bit of a solo. It was unreal. The camera was on.
It was unbelievable. And I was saying, if you got the goalkeepers in, just give them an hour or two with the drums. You'd make the reaction so much quicker. It'd be unbelievable.
I'm telling you. I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised more goalkeepers don't play the drums. Actually, it's like I have a kit set up downstairs now. If you want to send McNulty out to me, I'll give him a.
He's gone past it. No, Nulty's gone. He's gone past it.
There you go, goalkeepers. If you need any practice.
That's it. Yeah. Ash, a new career. Ashley, a new career open up for you.
But no, listen, it was great to get your input, Ashley, and thanks for coming on. And
no problem at all.
Like to get someone else involved in, like a fan, and especially the career you've had in music as well, and kind of line it up. Some fascinating points there. But so look, keep watching, keep putting us out there, and keep liking and sharing us, and we'll do our best to bring as much as you can. Thanks, lads.
Will do. Nice one.
Thanks, guys. Cheers, Ash.